Hey. Good morning. Morning, Priscilla. Morning, Jamie. How's it going? Good morning, good morning. Hey, Christina. Hello, everybody. All right. Hey, Amanda. Hey, Danny. The entire band of One Direction just entered the chat. I'm kidding. Just someone with the username One Direction. Hey, Brittany. Oh, I shouldn't be allowed to talk sometimes. Hey, Jen. Jen, how are you feeling? Better, I hope. Hey, Lisa. What am I doing? I need to focus. I need to have brain cells. Help me. Help me. It's been pretty good. We had playtime this morning, and now we are out like a light. She's been out for 15 minutes already, so yay for mommy. I know, oh my gosh, Nikki, is he not the cutest little boy on the planet? I mean, you guys, I love my daughter with every fiber of my ever-loving being, but when I tell you I was real hoping that she came out with the hair that Jonathan has, I was hopeful. I was crossing my fingers. Instead, she has my hair, which is literally the first thing that my husband said to me when he saw her come out. He said, Sasha, she has your hair. It is though. But, you know. She's beautiful regardless, but I was really looking forward to her having Jonathan's hair. Sorry, I didn't say, oh, you don't have to worry, Isabella. You never have to apologize. Yeah, just come and enjoy yourself. No stress. Literally no stress from us. No, no, no. No, no, no. I have a Shirley Temple song stuck in my head, which has been the trajectory of my life for the past few days. I was trying to save it when I was super anxious. Oh yeah, that does happen. I actually deal with that a lot as well. I have trouble sleeping. That's right, speaking is not a requirement anywhere. 90% of it is right. Brittany, the sadness of it all. Hey, Nikki. We have two Nickies in the house. What? Nickelodeon. Nick. That's what we're going with for today. That is what we are going with for today. I descaled my machine yesterday, you guys. So today's coffee should taste phenomenal. It should be delightful. But let me see. To be fair, I work late on Thursdays. That is fair. That is fair. I had remembered before, but the stuff just came in the mail yesterday, so I had to wait until these like packets of scaling stuff came in, and then it came in yesterday, so I did it yesterday. The machine is making a lot of noise. No, it's still here, Isabella, because I have to take it to the post office when I mail my orders. It's all packed up though and ready to go. I just have to get to the post office, which I have not been able to do yet. But we are going to the post office, I think tonight or tomorrow, one of the two. So it will go with all the Rover's lines. To the post office. Yeah, no, you're totally fine. I had to gather all the stuff and then I have to pack it up. I had to get a box that was the right kind of box. The problem is, usually for stuff that's your size, Isabella, I use USPS flat rate mailers, but you cannot use flat rate mailers to send things to the UK, so I had to get another box. Oh no, you're totally fine, Isabella. Don't even stress. It's just one of those things that, like, because I don't usually ship to the UK, I had to get special stuff for it, like other boxes and stuff that you're allowed to use. So we got them now, which is good. I mean, it doesn't really make sense, Isabella. Question: does it make it easier for Grabby to switch to summer to non-melt slime instead of pausing? It's totally up to you. You can do one of three things. You can pause your membership or drop down to like the community level, so to just like hang out and hold your spot. You can tell me that you want to hold your summer stuff. This is what a lot of people who live in hot places do. They ask me to hold their summer 3, and then they usually use those credits for Halloween's restock. Oh yeah, definitely, Isabella. So a lot of people love to get Halloween slimes. So some people who live in hot places ask me to hold June, July, and August in their credits. Thank you, Isabella. And then I have a thing in the back end that says give them a code in October, and then they use that money towards Halloween slimes, which is kind of like paying ahead. So a lot of people do that. Yeah, I think you did that last year. And then sometimes people just want like only cloud slimes or only cloud doughs over the summer, and that's also fine. And I can make a note in the back end of any of those 3 things, but you can do any of that stuff. Yeah, it's totally your call to do whatever speaks to you. Everyone has a different preference. Some people just, yeah, you can, especially people who live in hot places. I'm not trying to give people melted slime all year. See, we have a good, like where I live, it doesn't really happen that much. But like if you, like Cindy lives in Texas, well, she doesn't anymore. She lives in New York now as of like 2 days ago. But until 2 days ago, she lived in Texas. And it's just not feasible for some slimes to ship to Texas. Right, okay, see, there you go, Austin. That's exactly right. It's brutal in the summer. And so instead, wouldn't you rather just be happy and enjoy the ones you like another time? It's up to you though. You can also just pause, you know what I mean? Like no judgment from me. I will never be mad at anyone who has to make a good financial decision. I think you guys know I am a cheapskate. Arizona does not like summer slime. Yeah, for sure. It does not, for sure. Humidity is the worst, yeah. And they say global warming isn't a thing. I know, tell me about it. So it just depends, right? You know what I mean? It just depends on what you personally want to do. And the great thing is, you don't have to commit to just one thing. If you say to me, Sasha, I want to hold my entire credit for October, and then I do a restock in July, and there's something that you love in that, you can change your mind. It's not a big deal. You know me, I'm chill. Or at least I try to be. I don't know if I actually am. Maybe I just pretend I'm chill. I'm cosplaying as a chill person. I'm cosplaying as a chill person. I'm chill about stuff like that. How about that? You're in Kentucky, Nikki? Did you know that I lived there for 6 months? Okay. We're gonna do a little readjustment. I lived in Lexington because I went to school at UK for 1 semester. We're gonna just readjust here. The only hot place I've been to, Dubai. Wow, you got to go to Dubai? I've heard it's very, very cool. Not cool weather-wise, but like cool to see there. But yes, I went to University of Kentucky for 1 semester. I went there because of some classes that they offered, but then I couldn't handle the environment, so I had to go back to New York. I'm a little too rainbow, as it were, for Kentucky. You know, I was there and nobody treated me poorly or anything like that, but I didn't have a very good time making friends because for example, the first couple of days that I was there, I asked somebody in one of my classes, I said, oh, what do you guys around here like do for fun on the weekends? And they said, fun? And I went, uh-oh. Because they didn't have an answer. And then I found out that because 95% of the students at the University of Kentucky are from Kentucky,
they all just go home on the weekends to see their families, which is great, but my family wasn't in Kentucky, so I couldn't just go home on the weekends. So what I started to do while I was living there was I literally would get in my car after my Friday afternoon class, and I used to drive to New York all the 12 hours that it would take, go to Broadway shows over the weekend, and drive back on Monday to get back to school. I have similar traits to your best friend. That's amazing. I hope she's awesome. And then I was in a class. It was I think it was a lit class, and there was a girl there in the class who had dyed hair, which at the time I did not, even though I had before and after, but at the time my hair was just plain brown. Oh, tell her that she has our support, Isabella. And this girl had dyed hair and piercings and tattoos, and she was wearing a leather jacket, and the rest of the girls in the class, besides me, who was like whatever I am, looked like sorority girls, essentially, and they were making fun of her right in front of her. And I had a little bit of clout in the class because they knew I was from New York, and so I said something, and I was like, hey, why are you doing that? Like, that's not cool. I don't even remember what I said, but I like stopped them, and they were shocked that I said anything, and they never said anything again. But I started to talk to that girl instead, and we kind of like became just like classmate friends, not like lifelong friends or anything. And she said that her dream was to get out and go to New York, whatever like that. I think about her sometimes. I hope she got out. Oh my gosh, Victoria, don't even stress. We haven't even started yet, but rough night with the kiddos or just for yourself? Either way, it's still rough, but I hope everyone's okay. So anyway, that's why I didn't stay more than one semester in Kentucky. I had struggles with the environment and the people at the school, because, you know, oh, that's good. That does happen. It happens to everybody. All right, speaking of relationship issues, Katniss is having a ton of those. Looks like we're just a little over halfway through the book, which is interesting. We'll probably finish it, you know, in the next week. Victoria, I really hope that your relationship issues are not as bad as Katniss's. That's my hope for you. If they are, seek help. I took my morning meds last night, so oh no. Oh, draggy, no good. We are on chapter 14, page 192, and here we go. District 2 is a large district, as one might expect, composed of a series of villages spread across the mountains. Each was originally associated with a mine or a quarry, although now many are devoted to the housing and training of peacekeepers. None of this would present much of a challenge, since the rebels have 13's air power on their side, except for one thing. At the center of the district is a virtually impenetrable mountain that houses the heart of the capital's ministry. We've nicknamed the mountain the Nut, since I relayed Plutarch's tough nut to crack comment to the weary and discouraged rebel leaders that are here. The Nut was established directly after the Dark Days, when the capital had lost 13 and was desperate for a new underground stronghold. They had some of the military resources situated on the outskirts of the capital itself, nuclear missiles, aircraft, troops, but a significant chunk of their power is now under enemy control. Of course, there was no way that they could hope to replicate 13, which was the work of centuries. However, in the old mines nearby District 2, they saw opportunity. From the air, the Nut appeared to be just another mountain, with a few entrances on its face. But inside, there were vast cavernous spaces of slabs of stone, where slabs of stone had been cut and hauled to the surface and transported down a slippery, narrow road to make distant buildings. There was even a train system to facilitate transporting the miners from the Nut to the very center of the main town in District 2. Hey, Cindy. It ran right to the square that Peta and I visited during the Victory Tour. Standing on the wide marble steps of the Justice Building, trying not to look too closely at Cato and Clove's grieving families assembled below us. It was not the most ideal terrain, plagued as it was by mudslides, floods, and avalanches, but the advantages outweighed the concerns. As they'd cut deep into the mountains, The miners had left large pillars and walls of stone to support the infrastructure. The capital reinforces these and set about making the mountain their new military base. Filling it with computer banks, meeting rooms, barracks, and arsenal, widening entrances to allow the exit of hovercraft from the hangars, and installing missile launchers, but on the whole, leaving the exterior of the mountain largely unchanged. A rough and rocky tangle of trees and wildlife, a natural fortress to protect them from their enemies. By the other district standards, the capital babied the inhabitants here. By just looking at the District 2 rebels, you can tell that they were decently fed and cared for in childhood. Some did end up as quarry and mine workers, others were educated for jobs in the nut and funneled into the ranks of peacekeepers. Trained, young, and hard for combat, the Hunger Games were an opportunity for wealth and a kind of glory not seen elsewhere. Of course, the people of Two swallowed the capital's propaganda more easily than the rest of us, embraced their ways, but for all that, at the end of the day, they were still slaves. And if that was lost on the citizens who became peacekeepers or worked in the nut, it was not lost on the stonecutters who formed the backbone of the resistance here. Things stand as they did when I arrived 2 weeks ago. The outer villages are in rebel hands, and the town is divided, and the nut is as untouchable as ever. Its few entrances are heavily fortified, and its heart safely enfolded into the mountain. While every other district has now wrested control from the capital, Two remains in its pocket. Each day I do whatever I can to help. Visit the wounded, tape short propos with my camera crew. I'm not allowed into actual combat, but they invite me to meetings on the status of the war, which is a lot more than they did in 13. It's much better here, freer, no schedules on my arm, fewer demands on my time. I live above ground in the rebel villages or surrounding caves, and for the sake of safety, I'm often relocated. During the day, I've been given clearance to hunt as long as I take a guard along and I don't stray too far. In the thin, cold mountain air, I feel some physical strength returning. My mind is clearing away the rest of the fogginess, but with this mental clarity comes an even sharper awareness of what has been done to Peta. Snow has stolen him from me, twisted him beyond recognition, and made me a present of him. Boggs, who came to Two when I did, told me that even with all the plotting, it was a little too easy to rescue Peta. He believes if 13 hadn't made the effort, Peta would have been delivered to us anyway. Hey, Liz. He would have been dropped off in an actively warring district, or perhaps in 13 itself, tied up with ribbons and tagged with my name, programmed to end me. It's only now that he's been corrupted that I fully appreciate the real Peta, even more than I would have if he had died. The kindness, the steadiness, the warmth and unexpected heat behind it. Outside of Prim, my mother, and Gail, how many people in the world have loved me unconditionally? I think in my case the answer might be none now. Sometimes when I'm alone, I take the pearl from where it lives in my pocket and try to remember the boy with the bread, the strong arms that warded off my nightmares on the train and kissed me in the arena. To make myself put a name to the things that I've lost, but what's the use to it? It's gone, and he's gone. Whatever existed between us is gone, and all that's left is my promise to end snow. I tell myself this 10 times a day. Back in 13, Peta's rehabilitation continues, and even though I don't ask, Plutarch gives me cheery updates on the phone, like, "Good news, Katniss, I think we've almost got him convinced that you're not a nut. Good morning, Roxy." Or, "Today he was allowed to feed himself some pudding." When Hamish gets on after, he admits that Peta's no better. The only dubious ray of hope comes from my sister. "Prim came up with the idea to try to hijack him back," Hamish tells me. "Bring up the distorted memories of you and then give him a big dose of a calming drug like Morphling. We've only tried it on one memory, the tape of the two of you in the cave when you told him the story about Prim getting the goat." "Any improvement?" I ask. "Well, if the extreme confusion is an improvement over extreme terror, then, yeah," says Hamish. "But I'm not sure it is. He's lost the ability to speak for several hours. He went into some sort of stupor, and when he came out, the only thing he asked about was the goat." "Right," I say. "Anyway, how is it out there?" Hamish asks. "No forward motion," I tell him. "We're sending a team to help with the mountain. BD and some of the others," he says. "You know, the brains of the operation." When the brains are selected, I'm not surprised to see Gail's name on the list. I thought Beatty would bring him not for his technological expertise, but in hopes that he could somehow think of a way to ensnare a mountain. Originally, Gale offered to come with me to two, but I could see that I was tearing him away from his work with Beatty, so I told him to sit tight and stay where he was most needed. I didn't tell him his presence would make it even more difficult for me to mourn Peta. Gale finds me when they've arrived late one afternoon, and I'm sitting on a log at the end of my current village, plucking a goose. A dozen or so of the birds are piled at my feet. Great flocks of them have been migrating through here since I arrived, and they're easy picking. Without a word, Gale settles beside me and begins to relieve a bird of its feathers. We're about halfway through when he says, "Any chance we'll get to eat these?" Yeah, most of them go to the camp kitchen, but they expect me to give a couple to whoever I'm staying with tonight, I say, for keeping me. "Isn't the honor of that thing enough?" he says. "Yeah, you'd think that," I reply, but word's gotten out that mockingjays are hazardous to your health. We pluck the birds in silence for a while longer, and then he says, "I saw Peta yesterday, through the glass though." "What'd you think?" I ask. Something selfish," says Gale. "That you don't have to be jealous of him anymore?" My fingers give a yank, and a cloud of feathers float down around us. "No, actually, just the opposite." Gale pulls a feather out of my hair. "I thought, man, I'll never compete with that, no matter how much pain I'm in." And he spins the feather between his thumb and forefinger. "I don't stand a chance if he doesn't get better. You're never going to be able to let him go. You'll always feel wrong about being with me." "The way that I always feel wrong about kissing him because of you?" I say. And Gale holds my gaze. "If I thought that was true, I could almost live with the rest of it." "It is true," I admit, "but so is what you said about Peta." Gale makes a sound of exasperation, and nonetheless, after we've dropped off the birds to the volunteered to go back to the woods to gather kindling for the evening fire, I find myself wrapped up in his arms, and his lips are brushing the faded bruises on my neck, working their way to my mouth. Despite what I feel for Peta, this is what I accept. Deep down, he'll never be back to me, or I'll never go back to him. I'll stay in two until it falls. I'll go to the capital. I'll end snow, and then I'll die for my troubles. And he'll die insane and hating me. So in the fading light, I shut my eyes and I kiss Gale to make up for all the kisses I've withheld, because it doesn't matter anymore, and because I'm so desperately lonely that I can't even stand it. Gale's touch and taste and heat remind me that at least my body's still alive, and for the moment it's a welcome feeling, and I empty my mind and let the sensations run through my flesh, happy to lose myself. And when Gale pulls away slightly, I move forward to close the gap, but I feel his hand under my chin. Katniss," he says. The instant I open my eyes, the world seems disjointed. This is not our woods, or our mountain, or our way. My hands automatically go to the scar on my left temple, which I associate with confusion now. "Now kiss me." Bewildered and unblinking, I stand there when he leans in and presses his lips to mine briefly, and he examines my face closely. "What's going on in your head?" "I don't know," I whisper back. "Then it's like kissing someone who's drunk. It doesn't count," he says with a weak attempt at a laugh, and he scoops up a pile of kindling and drops it in my empty arms, returning me to myself. "How do you know?" I mostly cover my embarrassment. "Have you ever kissed someone who's drunk?" I guess Gale could have been kissing girls left and right back in 12. He certainly had enough takers, but I never thought about it much before. He just shakes his head. "No, but it's not hard to imagine what it'd be like." "So you've never kissed any other girls?" I asked. "Hey, I didn't say that. You know, you were only 12 when we met, and a real pain besides. I did have a life outside of hunting with you," he says, and he loads up with firewood, and suddenly I'm genuinely curious. "So who did you kiss? And where?" Too many to remember. Behind the school, on the slag heap, you name it," he says. I roll my eyes. "So when did I become so special? When they carted me off to the capital?" "No, about 6 months before that, right after New Year's. We were in the hob, eating some slop of greasy says, and Darius was teasing you about trading a rabbit for one of his kisses, and I realized I minded," he tells me. And I remember that day, bitter, cold, dark by 4 in the afternoon. We'd been hunting, but a heavy snow had driven us back to town. The hob was crowded with people looking for refuge from the weather. Greasy Say's soup, made with stock from the bones of a wild dog that we'd shot a week earlier, was below her usual standards. Still, it was hot, and I was starving, and as I scooped it up, sitting cross-legged on her counter, Darius was leaning on the post of the stall, tickling my cheek with the end of my braid, and while I smacked his hand away, he was explaining why one of his kisses merited a rabbit, or possibly two, since everyone knows that red-headed men are the most virile. That's funny. Greasy Say and I were laughing because he was so ridiculous and persistent, and I kept pointing out women around the hob who said he had paid far more than a rabbit to enjoy his lips. See, the one in the green muffler, so he was telling that there are more, sorry, okay, I read that wrong, but what he's telling her is that there are a lot of women around who have paid for his kisses. See, the one in the green muffler, go ahead and ask her if you need a reference, he says. And 1,000,000 miles from here, and 1,000,000,000 days ago, this did happen. Darius was just joking around, I say. Yeah, probably. Although you'd be the last to figure it out if he wasn't, Gale tells me. Take Peeta, take me, or even Finnick. I was starting to worry he had his eye on you, but he seems back on track now. You don't know Finnick if you think that he'd love me, I say. And Gale shrugs. I know, he was desperate, and that makes people do all sorts of crazy things. And I can't help thinking that that's directed at me. Bright and early the next morning, the brains assemble and take on the problem of the nut. I'm asked to the meeting, although I don't have much to contribute. I avoid the conference table, and I perch in the wide windowsill that has a view of the mountain in question. The commander from 2, a middle-aged woman named Lime, takes us on a virtual tour of the nut, its interior, fortifications, and recount the failed attempts to seize it. I've crossed paths with her briefly a couple of times since my arrival, and I was dogged by the feeling that I'd met her before. She's memorable enough, standing over 6 feet tall and heavily muscled, but it's only when I see a clip of her in the field leaning arrayed on the main entrance of the nut that something clicks, and I realize I'm in the presence of another victor. Lime, the tribute from 2 who won her Hunger Games over a generation ago. Effie sent us her tape, among the others, to prepare us for the Quarter Quell. I've probably caught glimpses of her during the games over the years, but she kept a low profile. With their newfound knowledge of Hamish and Finnick's treatment, all I can think is, what did the Capitol do to Lime after she won? And when she finishes the presentation, the questions from the brains begin. Hours pass, lunch comes and goes, and they try to come up with a realistic plan for taking the nut. But while Beatty thinks that he might be able to override certain computer systems, there seem to be some decision of putting a handful of internal spies to use. No one has any real innovative thoughts, though. As the afternoon wears on, talks keep returning to a strategy that's been tried repeatedly, the storming of the entrances, and I can see Lime's frustration building because so many variations on this plan have already failed and so many of her soldiers have already been lost. So finally she bursts out, the next person who suggests we take the entrances better have a brilliant way to do it, because you're going to be the one leading the mission. Gale, who is too restless to sit at the table for more than a few hours, has been alternating between pacing and sharing my windowsill. Early on, he seemed to accept Lime's assertion that the entrances couldn't be taken, and he dropped out of the conversation entirely. So for the last hour or so, he sat quietly knitting his brow in concentration, staring at the nut through the glass window. In the silence that follows Lime's ultimatum, he does speak up. Is it really so necessary that we take the nut? Or would it be enough to just disable it? That would be a step in the right direction, says Beatty. What did you have in mind? Think of it as a wild dog den, Gale continues. You're not going to fight your way in, so you have 2 choices. You either trap the dogs inside, or you flush them out. We've been trying bombing the entrances, says Lime. They're set far too inside the stone for any real damage to be done. No, I wasn't thinking of that, says Gale. I was thinking of using the mountain. Beatty rises and joins Gale at the window, peering through the ill-fitted glasses he has. See? Running down the sides? Avalanche paths. Beatty says under his breath. It'd be tricky, and we'd have to design the detonation sequence with great care, and once it's in motion, we couldn't hope to control it. We don't need to control it if we give up the idea that we have to possess the nut, says Gale. We only gotta shut it down. So you're suggesting that we start avalanches and block the entrances? Asks Lime. Yeah, that's it, says Gale. trap the enemy inside, cut them off from their supplies, make it impossible for them to send out their hovercraft. While everyone considers the plan, Boggs flips through a stack of blueprints of the nut and frowns. You would risk killing everyone inside. Look at the ventilation system. It's rudimentary at best. Nothing like what we have in 13. It depends entirely on pumping air in from the mountainsides and blocking those vents. Well, you'll suffocate whoever's trapped inside. They could still escape through the train tunnel to the square, says Beatty. Not if we blow it up, says Gale briskly. His intent, his full intent, becomes clear then. Gale has no interest in preserving the lives of those in the nut. No interest in caging the prey for later use. This is one of his death traps. Dun dun dun! I'm gonna read another chapter in a second. I just need to grab some coffee. Sleepy, sleepy little bean. Well, that was a less traumatic chapter, right? I don't know. I feel like some chapters are way more traumatic than others. She gives us a nice balance, if you will. Chapter 15, page 204. You okay? If you want to change positions, you should tell me before we start the next chapter. What do you want, my baby? You happy like this? Okay. Okay. Chapter 15, page 204. You do want change, don't you? You're wiggly. You are a wiggly worm. You want to come out? You want to come out? Yeah. Okay, come here. Come here. Okay. There we go. There we go. Yeah. What's wrong? What's wrong? Hey, hey, hey. We don't have to wake up sad. Mommy's right here. We don't have to wake up sad. Mommy's right here, see? Here's Mommy. We're doing this new thing where when we wake up, if we can't see Mommy right away, we get sad. But I'm right here. I'm right here. I know, my angel. Mommy's right here. You can see me right here. See? Hello. Hello. Mommy's right here. Mommy's right here. No, we're not sad. We're happy girls. We're having a good morning. Yeah. We're having a good morning. Mommy's right here. We're okay. We're okay. We're together. We're cuddling. Yeah. We're cuddling. You can still cuddle. Yeah. Yeah. We're okay. Okay. Can we read chapter 15? What do you think? Maybe. The implications of what Gale is suggesting settle quietly around the room. You can see the reaction playing out on people's faces. The expressions range from pleasure to distress, from sorrow to satisfaction. The majority of the workers are citizens from 2, Beatty says neutrally. So what? Says Gale. We'll never be able to trust them again. Well, they should at least have the chance to surrender, says Lime. Well, that's a luxury that we weren't given when they firebombed 12, but you're much cozier with a capital here, I guess, says Gale. By the look on Lime's face, I think she might shoot him, or at least take a swing at him. She probably would have the upper hand, too, with all her training, but her anger only seems to infuriate him, and he yells, "We watched children burn to death, and there was nothing we could do." I have to close my eyes for a minute and imagine as the image rips through me. It's had the desired effect, and I want everyone in that mountain dead. I'm about to say so, but then I'm also a girl from District 12. I'm not President Snow, and I can't help it. I can't condemn someone to death as he's suggesting. Gale, I say, taking his arm, trying to speak in a reasonable tone, the nut is an old mine. It would be like causing a massive coal mining accident. Surely the words might be enough for anyone from District 12 to think twice about this plan. Yeah, but not so quick as the one that killed our fathers, he retorted. Is that everyone's problem? That our enemies might have a few hours to reflect on the fact that they're dying instead of just being blown to bits? Back in the old days, when we were nothing more than a couple of kids hunting outside of 12, Gail said things like this and worse. But back then they were just words. Here, they're put into practice. They become deeds that can never be reversed. You don't know how those District 2 people ended up inside the nut, I say. They might have been coerced. They might have been held against their will. Some are our own spies. Will you kill them too? I would sacrifice a few, yeah, to take out the rest of them, he replies. And if I were a spy in there, I'd say, bring on the avalanches. I know he's telling the truth, that Gale would sacrifice his life this way for the cause, and no one doubts it. Perhaps we would all do the same if we were spies given the choice. I guess I would. But it's a cold-hearted decision to make for other people and for those who loved them. You said we had 2 choices, Boggs tells him, to trap them in or flush them out. I say we try the avalanche on the mountain, but leave the train tunnel alone. People can escape into the square, where we'll be waiting for them. Heavily armed, I hope, says Gale. You can be sure they'll be. Heavily armed. We'll take them prisoner, agrees Boggs. Let's bring 13 into the loop now, Beatty suggests. Let President Coyne weigh in. She'll want to block the tunnel, says Gale with conviction. Yes, most likely. But you know PETA did have a point in his propos about the dangers of killing ourselves off. I've been playing with some numbers and factoring in the casualties and the wounded, and I think it's at least worth a conversation, says Beatty. Only a handful of people are invited to be a part of that conversation. Gale and I are now released with the rest, and I take him hunting so he can blow off some steam, but he's not talking about it, probably too angry with me for confronting him. The call does happen, a decision is made, and by evening I'm suited up in my Mockingjay outfit with my bow slung over my shoulder and an earpiece that connects me to Hamish and 13, just in case a good opportunity for a propos arises. We wait on the roof of the Justice Building with a clear view of our target. Our hoverplanes are initially ignored by the commanders in the nut because in the past they've been little more than troublesome flies buzzing around a honeypot. But after a few rounds of bombing in the higher elevation of the mountain, the planes have their attention. By the time the capital's anti-aircraft weapons begin to fire, it's already too late. Gale's plan exceeds anyone's expectation. Beatty was right about being unable to control the avalanches once they've been set into motion. The mountain sides are naturally unstable, and they're weakened by the explosions. They seem almost fluid. Whole sections of the nut collapse before our eyes, obliterating any sign of human beings that have ever set foot on the place. We stand speechless, tiny, and insignificant as waves of stone thunder down the mountain, burying the entrances under tons of rock, raising clouds of dirt and debris, and blackens the sky, turning the nut into a tomb. I imagine the hell that's inside that mountain, sirens wailing, lights flickering into darkness, stone dust choking the air, the shrieks of the panic trapped inside, stumbling madly on their way out, only to find that the entrances, the launch pad, the ventilation shafts themselves clogged with earth and rock trying to force its way in. Live wires are flung free, fires break out, rubble making familiar paths a maze. People are slamming, shoving, scrambling like ants as the hill presses in, threatening to crush their fragile shells. Katniss, Hamish's voice is in my earpiece, and I try to answer back and find both my hands are clamped tightly over my mouth. Katniss. On the day my father died, the sirens went off during my school lunch. No one waited for dismissal or was expected to. The response to a mine accident was something outside the control of the Capitol, and I ran to Prim's class. I still remember her, tiny at 7, very pale but sitting up straight with her hands folded at her desk, waiting for me to collect her as I promised I would if the sirens ever sounded. She sprang out of her seat, grabbed my coat sleeve, and we wove through the streams of people pouring out into the street and pooling at the entrance of the mine. We found our mother clenching the rope that had been hastily strung to keep the crowd back, and in retrospect, I guess I should have known that there was a problem right then, because why were we looking for her when the reverse should have been true? The elevators were screeching, burning up and down their cables as they vomited smoke-blackened miners into the light of day. With each group came cries of relief, relatives diving under the rope to lead off their husbands, wives, children, parents, siblings. We stood in the freezing air as the afternoon turned overcast. A light snow dusted the earth. The elevators moved more slowly now, and disgorged fewer beings. I knelt on the ground and pressed my hands into the cinders, wanting so badly to pull my father free then. If there's more helpless feeling, if there's a more helpless feeling than trying to rescue someone you love who's trapped underground, I don't know what it is. The wounded, the bodies, waiting through the night, blankets put around your shoulders by strangers, a mug of something hot that you don't drink, and then finally at dawn, the grieved expression on the face of the mine captain could only mean one thing. What did we just do? Hey, Katniss, are you there? Hamish is probably making plans to have me fitted for a head shackle at this very moment, so I drop my hands. Yes. Get inside, just in case the Capitol tries to retaliate for what's left of its forces, he instructs. Yes, I repeat. Everyone on the roof, except for the soldiers manning the machine guns, make their way inside. As I descend the stairs, I can't help brushing my fingers along the unblemished white marble walls. So cold, so beautiful. Even in the Capitol, there's nothing that matches the magnificence of this old building, but there's still no give to the surface. Only my flesh yields, my warmth taken. Stone conquers people every time. I sit at the base of one of the gigantic pillars in the great entrance hall. Through the doors, I can see the white expanse of marble that leads to the steps on the square, and I remember how sick I was the day that Peeta and I accepted congratulations for the winning of the games. Worn down by the victory tour, failing in my attempt to calm the districts, facing the memories of Clove and Cato, particularly Cato's gruesome and slow death by the Mutts. Boggs crouches down beside me, his skin pale in the shadows. We didn't bomb the train tunnel, you know. Some of them probably will get out. And then we'll shoot them to show their faces, I ask. Only if we have to, he answers. We could send in trains ourselves and help evacuate the wounded, I say. No, it was decided to leave the tunnel in their hands. That way, they can use all the tracks to bring people out, says Boggs. Besides, it will give us time to get the rest of our soldiers to the square. A few hours ago, the square was no man's land in front of the fight between the rebels and the peacekeepers. When Coin gave approval for Gale's plans, the rebels launched a heated attack and drove the Capitol forces back several blocks so that we could well control the train station in the event that the nut did fall. Well, it's fallen. The reality has sunk in. Any survivors will escape to the square, and I can hear the gunfire starting again, as the peacekeepers are no doubt trying to fight their way to rescue their comrades. Our own soldiers are being brought in to counter this. You're cold, says Boggs. I'll see if I can find a blanket. He goes before I can protest. I don't want a blanket, even if the marble continues to leach my body heat. Katniss, Hamish says in my ear. Still here, I answer. Interesting turn of events with Peeta this afternoon. I thought you'd want to know, he says. Interesting isn't good. It isn't better, but I don't really have a choice but to listen. We showed him that clip of you singing, The Hanging Tree. It was never aired, so the Capitol couldn't use it when he was being hijacked. He says he recognizes the song. And for a moment my heart skips a beat, and then I realize it's more than just tracker-jacker serum confusion. He couldn't, Hamish. He never heard me sing that song. Not you, your father. He heard him singing it one day when he came to trade at the bakery. Peeta was small, probably 6 or 7, and he remembered it because he was specifically listening to see if the birds stopped singing, he says, Hamish. I guess they did. 6 or 7. That would have been before my mother banned the song, maybe even right around the time that I was learning it. Was I there too? Don't think so. No mention of you anyway, but it's the first connection to you that hasn't triggered some sort of meltdown, says Hamish. It's something, at least, Katniss. My father, he seems everywhere today, dying in the mind, singing his way into Peeta's muddled consciousness, flickering in the look Boggs gives me as he protectively wraps the blanket around my shoulders. I miss him so badly that it hurts. The gunfire's really picking up outside, and Gil hurries by with a group of rebels eagerly headed for the battle. I don't petition to join the fighters, not that they would let me anyway. I have no stomach for it anyway, and no heat in my blood. I wish Peeta was here, the old Peeta, because he would be able to articulate why it's so wrong exchanging fire when people, any people, are trying to claw their way out of the mountain. Or is my own history making me too sensitive? Aren't we at war? Isn't this just another way to kill our enemies? Night falls quickly. Huge, bright spotlights are turned on, illuminating the square. Every bulb must be burning at full wattage inside the train station as well, and even from my position across the square, I can see clearly through the plate glass among the long, narrow buildings. It would be impossible to miss the arrival of a train or even a single person, but hours pass and no one comes. With each minute, it becomes harder to imagine that anyone has survived the assault on the Nut. It's well after midnight when Cressida comes to a special microphone in my costume. "What's this for?" I ask. Hamish's voice comes on to explain. "Look, I know you're not going to like this, but we need you to make a speech." "A speech?" I say, immediately feeling queasy. "I'll feed it to you, line by line," he assures me. "You just have to repeat what I say. Look, there's no sign of life coming out of the mountain, so we've won, but the fighting continues. So we thought that if you went out on the steps of the Justice Building and laid it out, told everyone that the Nut's defense, the capital's presence in District 2 is finished, you might be able to get the rest of our forces their forces to surrender." I peer at the darkness beyond the square. I can't even see their forces. "Yeah, that's what the mic's for," he says. "You'll be broadcast, both your voice through their emergency auto system and your image wherever people have access to a screen." I know that there are a couple of huge screens here in the square. I saw them on the Victory Tour. It might work if I were good at this sort of thing, which I'm not. They tried to feed me lines in those early experiments with the Propos, and that was a flop. "You could save a lot of lives, Katniss," Hamish says finally. "All right, I'll give it a try," I tell him. It's strange standing outside the top of the stairs, fully costumed, brightly lit, but with no visible audience to deliver my speech to. It's like I'm doing a show for the moon. "All right, let's make this quick," says Hamish. "You're too exposed." My television crew, positioned outside in the square with the special cameras, indicates that they're ready. I tell Hamish to go ahead, and then they click on my mic, and I listen carefully for him to dictate the first line of the speech. A huge image of me lights up one of the screens over the square as I begin. "People of District 2, this is Katniss Everdeen speaking to you from the steps of your Justice Building where..." And a pair of trains come screeching into the train station, side by side. As the doors slide open, people tumble out, and a cloud of smoke that they've brought from the Nut comes with them. They must have at least had an inkling of what would wait them in the square, because you can see that they're trying to act evasively. Most of them flatten onto the floor, and a spray of bullets inside the station takes out the lights. They've come armed, as Gale predicted, but they've come wounded as well. The moans can be heard in the otherwise silent night. Someone kills the lights on the stairs, leaving me in the protection of a shadow. A flame booms inside the station. One of the trains must actually be on fire. A thick black smoke billows against the windows. Left with no choice, the people begin to push out into the square, choking but defiantly waving their guns. My eyes dart around the rooftop that ring the square. Every one of them has been fortified with rebel-manned machine gun nests. Moonlight glints off the oiled barrels. A young man staggers out from the station, one hand pressed against a bloody cloth on his cheek, the other dragging a gun behind him, and when he trips and falls on his face, I see the scorch marks down the back of his shirt, a red flesh beneath them, and suddenly he's just another burn victim from a mine accident. My feet fly down the steps, and I take off running for him. "Stop!" I yell at the rebels. "Hold your fire!" The words echo around the square and beyond as the mic amplifies my voice. "Stop!" I'm nearing the young man and reaching down to help him when he drags himself up to his knees and trains his gun at my head. I instinctively back up a few steps and raise my bow over my head to show my intention was harmless. Now that he has both hands on his gun, I notice the ragged hole in his cheek where something, a falling stone maybe, punctured his flesh. He smells of burning things, hair, meat, fuel. His eyes are crazed with pain and fear. "Freeze," Hamish's voice whispers in my ear, and I follow his orders, realizing that this is what District 2, all of Panem maybe, must be seeing at this moment. The Mockingjay at the mercy of a man with nothing to lose. His garbled speech is barely comprehensible. Give me one reason why I shouldn't end you." The rest of the world recedes. There's only me looking into the wretched eyes of a man from the Nut who asks for one reason, and surely I should be able to come up with thousands, but the words that make it to my lips are, "I can't." Logically, the next thing that should happen is the man should pull the trigger, but he's perplexed, trying to make sense of my words, and I experience my own confusion as I realize what I've said is entirely true, and the noble impulse that carried me across the square is replaced by despair. I can't. That's the problem, isn't it? I lower my bow. "We blew up your mine. You burned my district to the ground. We've got every reason to end each other, so do it. Make the capital happy. I'm done killing their slaves for them." And I drop my bow onto the ground and give it a nudge with my boot. It slides across the stone and comes to rest at his knees. I'm not their slave, the man mutters. I am, I say. That's why I killed Cato, and he killed Thresh, and he killed Clove, and she tried to kill me. It just goes around, and who wins? Not us. Not the districts, no. Always the capital. But I'm tired of being a piece in their games. PETA, on the roof the night before the Hunger Games, he understood it all long before we even set foot in the arena. I hope he was watching now, and I hope he remembers that night as well as I do, and maybe he forgives me for it when I die. Keep talking. Tell them about watching the mountain go down, Hamish insists in my ear. When I saw the mountain fall tonight, I thought, well, they've done it again. They got me to kill you, the people in the districts. But why did I do it? District 12 and District 2 have no fight except the one the capital gave us. The young man then blinks at me uncomprehendingly, and I sink onto my knees before him, my voice low and urgent. And why are you fighting with the rebels on the rooftops? With Lime, who was your victor? With people who were your neighbors, maybe even your family? I don't know, says the man. But he doesn't take his gun off of me. I rise and I turn slowly in a circle, addressing the machine guns. Hey, are you up there? I come from a mining town. Since when do miners condemn other miners to that kind of death and then stand by to kill whoever manages to crawl from the rubble? Who's the enemy? Whispers Hamish. These people, I indicate the wounded bodies in the square, are not your enemy. I whip back around to the train station. The rebels are not your enemy. We all have one enemy, and it's the capital. This is our chance to put an end to their power. We need every district person to do it. The cameras are tight on me, and I reach out my hands to the man, to the wounded, to the reluctant rebels across Pan Am. Please, join us. My words hang in the air, and I look to the screen, hoping to see the recording of the wave of reconciliation going through the crowd. But instead, I watch myself get shot on television. Whoa. I forgot that happened. Big forget energy. Big forgetting energy. Oops. This is what comes when you don't read a book for 20 years. You forget. I mean, it hasn't been 20 years, like 15 years. Still. Crazy town. Crazy town. That's pure insanity. So, what's tomorrow? Tomorrow we have 2 lives, book club and... What? What, my little puppy? Don't make puppy sounds, so sad. She's probably getting hungry. I'm gonna go feed this baby. We probably won't have a live tonight because I gotta finish packing slimes and stuff so that I can start on those orders. But if we do, I'll let you know. We definitely have 2 tomorrow though. Book club and roll for slime. Roll for slime Mother's Day. Thank you, Brittany. Thank you. I know she makes these sweet little puppy dog sounds. She goes like, oh, oh, oh. But she's asleep. Like you can see, she's clearly asleep. She's just like, I don't know, dreaming about something. Who knows what. If you haven't entered the Mother's Day contest or haven't tagged a mom that you know that might want to, please do that. We're going to announce the winner live on the Mother's Day Roll for Slime because I think that's a fun way to do it. Okay, I'm going to go feed this baby before she gets mad at me. Bye, guys.